I just wanted to talk a little bit about why you should always avoid doing what the masses do, avoiding the masses. It's important. Whenever you see a group of people doing something, go the exact opposite way. Because typically what happens is people that follow the masses, people that follow trends, people that do what everybody else does, they usually are sheep being led to a slaughter. That's why, people that refer to people that are not in the know or brain dead call them sheeple because they're being led to the slaughter. That's why you should avoid what the masses do at all costs, because they are sheep being led to the slaughter. Why do you think they get as many people to do one thing at the exact same time for? Because they want them to be unified. They want them to be in sync with each other, doing exactly whatever it is that they want them to do, and that's when you get yourself in trouble. Because the masses don't know what they're doing. They just follow what everybody else does. Just like sheep being led to a slaughter. That's why you should always avoid the masses. I mean, I go to the extreme extent where I avoid the general population as much as I possibly can. Because, well, first of all, your average run-of-the-mill, brain-dead zombie is a pain in the ass to deal with, and people, your general average run-of-the-mill individual, I look at these people and it just makes me want to throw up. I'm serious. It makes me just want to throw up when I look at these people. I have nothing to say to anybody, really, anymore. In casual conversation, I really don't. It's difficult for me to explain things that people are not fully open and willing to understand, or wanting to understand, for that matter. So, I just do my thing and I keep my head down and I just avoid dealing with a large amount of people. But the point is, the thing that you have to understand, the most important bit of advice that was told to me by somebody, which I'm not going to mention his name, but never go with what the masses are doing, ever. Because you will suffer more by doing what they're doing versus doing things your own way. And that's the whole point of men going their own way, is to avoid doing what everybody else does, because we've already seen, where that ends up leading us. A lot of guys, they just can't seem to get it. They just don't. They don't either. I don't know what the deal is. I really don't. Some guys just don't get it. An example would be, the guys that want to get laid and guys that go on dating sites and whatnot, and they try to act suave and they post pictures of themselves and they go through the motions and not have any kind of result from anything like that. Well, it's because they're doing what everybody else does. All right, all the guys in the world go on the dating sites and they try to get laid. It doesn't work, but they keep doing it. So they get caught up in this cycle. And that's what's so dangerous about going with the masses. Because it's the hive mind. It's falling in line. That's what's so dangerous about it. Whenever you see a whole bunch of people doing one thing, don't do that one thing. I mentioned in a video I did, my other video, my recent last upload, I said that we live in an inverted world. And I mean that literally. We live in an inverted world. Everything is a mirror reflection of what is going on in different dimensions. What do you think quantum physics is about? That's what it's about in a lot of ways. It's the understanding of those things. But we live in an inverted world where what was right is wrong, and where what is wrong is right. So you have to take that principle and you have to apply it to your life and when you go out in public. You know, it's funny, the very first thing people do, it's funny. Let's say, for example, if somebody gets into a car accident and you witness it, it seems like everybody wants to go pull over to the side and see what's going on because they want to be part of something exciting, right? They want to be part of something. But the thing they don't understand is, well, the car could be on fire, it could explode, and it could explode. And so everybody's huddled around the car trying to make somebody sure that they're safe. But meanwhile, the car is leaking fluid, and there's heat, and that gasoline and the vapor hits the heat, and the whole car goes up, and everybody around them gets blown to pieces. See, people don't think. They don't think about those things. So whenever you see the masses doing everything, don't do that. Because typically that's how people get hurt. And again, it's because of a reason. It's on purpose. You know, that's why, they have shootings in concerts. You know, whenever there's some kind of mass shooting, mass meaning the amount, a matter, mass shooting, a lot of people being the matter, that's what it's about. That's why you want to avoid the masses. You understand what I'm saying? It's because the reason why a whole bunch of people get together is because of the energy that is generated from a whole bunch of people being put together. Mass. You see, these are things that we're not taught. We're not taught these things. And it's important for you to understand that. So never do what the masses are doing. Because I'd say about 99% of the time, it's the wrong way to go. Everybody goes the easy way, and that ends up always being the worst possible way you could go is the easy way. You know, just like, people go out and they get useless college degrees. Or they major in an easy degree because their friends are doing it. Or because, it's part of what they call the bandwagon effect. And they do it because it's easy, or because they want to be in the same class as their friends or whatever. And then later on down the line, they realize they can't get a job, and they're up to their eyeballs in fucking debt. Well, they went the easy way. They did what everybody else did. Well, that's what ended up being the end result of taking that route. Women are notorious for being bandwagon followers, collective mindset, hive mind, whatever you want to call it. They're notorious for doing what everybody else does. Right? If they see their friends or their other little chickie girlfriends running around in the same clothes, they want to get the same clothes. If they see another chick with that kind of hair, they want to have the exact same hair. Until the next thing changes and they do it all over again. Yeah, and it gets them in a lot of trouble. Once they see something going on they want to know all the commotions about, that might not necessarily be a good thing. And so they do what everybody else does. That's the worst possible thing you could ever do, is doing what everybody else does. But they do it. They're notorious for doing that. And you end up finding out that whenever a lot of people get together, like in a riot or something of that nature, shit goes wrong because there's that one idiot that's going to throw a rock or do something, and the whole thing is going to erode and explode. Women are the same way, you know. I mentioned this in a hangout I did. You know, there's this experiment where there was this girl that went into this hospital waiting room, and everybody that was in the waiting room was in on the experiment. They knew what was going on, but she didn't, because that was the variable. And they had this buzzer go off, and every time the buzzer went off, they'd stand for like 3 or 4 seconds, and they'd sit back down. Well, after the 4th time, she started standing up like all the rest of them did. Another experiment was the elevator experiment, where they had everybody that was in on the experiment would face the opposite way of the elevator. So when you're walking into an elevator, you don't turn around. They did it so that the people just kept facing the front. And eventually, what happened was people started doing that because they wanted to fit into the club. They wanted to be part of it. They didn't want to be an outsider. I mean, that's such a dangerous mentality, but it shows you how easy people are to be manipulated. Because people are so afraid of what other people are going to think of them that they don't even realize what they're actually doing to themselves is making it worse for themselves. And so this is how people are able to run this world and manipulate people on various different levels. That's not just the only level, but people that are out to con people and whatnot, or out to get people. You can see how, like I said, we call these people that are not in the know sheeple, because they're sheep being led to a slaughter. It's called the bandwagon effect, because everybody else is doing it, so you need to do it. That's why you should never do what the masses are doing. And like I said, I go to the extent that I don't go to the grocery store when everybody else is there. I don't go do my errand running when everybody else does their errand running. I do exact opposite of what everybody else does. And I benefit quite well from it. I don't have to put up with all the headaches and all the bull crap. The other thing I notice is that, you know, I've been looking at the herbivore men stuff here, you know, in Japan. I find out that, you know, when you start to learn how the world really works, and you start to learn all the little synchronicities and all the little all the symbolism, it becomes harder and harder for you to relate to individuals, because they just don't get it. Some guys that they just don't get what Mgtow is about. Some people don't get what baseball or football is about. Some people just don't get things. And especially when it has to do with really complex things too, that challenge their ability to say, you know what, just possibly, just maybe, this world is completely fake, which is why they refer to it as a matrix, and that everything that goes on here is a direct inversion of another place, in another dimension, where it's a completely different world. When you start talking that kind of language with people, they shut off, because they cannot comprehend. They don't get it, because they don't want to look into it, because it's part of this mind control, this brainwashing that takes place in this world with television and news and all this fake garbage. Like the presidential election. That's all garbage. It's all pre-programmed, pre-scripted. It's nothing but the same thing run over and over and over again. And people buy it hook, bait, and sinker. Which is why I'm done trying to help people. I'm fucking had it. I get so frustrated when I try to explain things to people. And maybe it's just because they don't get it from what I'm trying to explain to them, which I understand. But it's not excusable. It's not excusable anymore. So I find that intelligent people, and at least in the herbivore men, it seems to me that they were reclusive. I call it just being smart and not going and doing what all the masses are doing. You know, everybody's got a... It's so funny because everybody... When I first started making content, YouTube videos, everybody had a fancy intro. Everybody had a you know, some fancy thing that they said before their videos. and everybody had social media, and everybody had this, and they did the exact same thing. It was nothing but a copycat of a copycat of a copycat of the same crap, garbage in and garbage out. So I said, I'm not going to do that. Everything that everybody else does, I'm not going to do any of those things. Fuck them. You never want to do what the masses are doing. Any large amount of people together that are doing a certain thing, don't do it. Don't do it. You know, I'm kind of I take things to the extreme just because that's kind of my personality. Maybe it's just because I'm a Scorpio. You know, being a Scorpio, I don't know, we just get it better, I guess. And so I take that to the point where I say I don't go to parties with a bunch of people. I don't like to hang out with a bunch of people because I just get this bad feeling because there's too many things that can go wrong, and there's too many people that want to act stupid and try to impress people and show off, and it ends up fucking up the whole thing for everybody. And it gets people in trouble because they're trying to show off to other people. They're trying to follow what other people are doing. It's so funny. I used to go to and hang out at this place, and it's so funny. Every time that this particular location would have parties, I'd sit back and I wouldn't hang out with anybody. I'd say hi to a few people, and I'd go down, you know, and hang out with a few people. But it's so funny because you get these little pockets of people. You get these little pockets of like maybe 5 or 6 people, and they'd all float around the whole room together. Like they couldn't leave each other's sights. They all floated around the same room together. And if more than half of the group went outside to smoke a cigarette or something, they would just follow like little animals, following the person around because they didn't want to be alone or they didn't want to stand there look awkward. They always had to be a part of the group. Always. And I found that so funny. I said, you people are so easily controlled and manipulated. This is why we're such in this terrible position as men and just as people. We're such in a fucked up position because everybody who likes to be followed around. Like I said, sheep being led to a slaughter. But I found that interesting, you know, and they could not just stand there and enjoy themselves or just not talk to anybody. They always had to be around somebody because I knew exactly what it was. It was because in their eyes, they did not want to be seen, or they didn't want to be portrayed as the individuals without any kind of network, without any kind of friends that were showing them that they were some kind of importance within the social structure of the party. That's social. I mean, that's just social psychology. They wanted to show other people that they were important enough, that it was worth somebody's time, that they had to be followed around with or talked to. Found that hilarious. But you know where that, like I said, you don't want to follow what everybody else is doing. Because to a trained eye, it just makes you look like you're just a little dog being led around by a fucking leash. And it shows you that you're not a strong, independent individual. And in that lies the problem. Because in the hands of evil people and evil, period, you're extremely vulnerable to being controlled. And that's why you should never associate yourself with any kind of massive group. Ever. Because that's where things go wrong. Because people they're just sheep being led to a slaughter now. That's all it is, you know. That's just what it is. So anyways, I wanted to talk about that because I wanted just to give, you know, again, it's about improving ourselves as men. I've taken some time off from making videos because I find that, you know, this whole thing about Mgtow on YouTube and making content, it's a lot of bandwagon effect bullshit, and I don't want to be a part of it. I don't want to be a part of this bandwagon effect bullcrap. If I want to make a Mgtow video talking about something I want to talk about, then that's what I want to do. I'm not going to follow this trend of talking about one thing or the other thing. I'm sick and tired. I'm done with that crap. If you want to go, if you want to just, if you're one of those guys that like to hear talking about women all the time, go find another channel. I mean, I like to talk about the situation between men and women. It's part of the Mgtow mentality. But I'm not going to make my whole channel about that crap. Because you know what's going to happen? People are going to either figure it out or get real sick and tired of it. Regardless, you're bullshitting people either way. And I'm just not going to be a part of that crap. It's exhausting, and you're bullshitting everybody. And I don't want to be a part of that shit. And I don't want to be part of what everybody else is doing. I don't want to be a part of what everybody else is doing. I don't have a fancy intro. I don't have a fancy outro. I don't have social media. I don't tell you to go donate. Look, I talk, and if you like listening, you like it, you comment, that's cool, that's it. Simple as that. I think a lot of people have been too caught up in viewership and subscribers, and they've lost the whole point of it. Which was going to happen anyway. It's not like it was going to be preventable. But the moral of the story I'm trying to tell everybody, the advice, is just never follow what the masses are doing. What everybody else is doing, do the exact opposite of that. Because it always means that there's something really fishy going on. Another thing I find interesting is that, when I'm talking to you guys and I'm talking to my subscribers, I'm sitting here hitting my e-cig. I like vaping. I'm into vaping now because I quit smoking. I'm not one of these morons that talk about sub-ohms and coils. I have a very simple thing. I hit it because I quit smoking. I'm not into the subculture of vaping at all. I'm a very anti what everybody else is doing person. That's the moral of what I'm trying to tell you. But like I said, I don't follow a script. I literally, every time I talk in my videos, it's all off the cuff shit. So sometimes I ramble, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'm on point, sometimes I don't. It's called being a human being. It's called being authentic. It's not following a script, because that's unnatural. So in terms of being a man going your own way, improvement, trying to just figure out how to survive in this world, there's no better piece of survival advice than never do what everybody else is doing. If the masses or the general public they all do the same thing, run, because it means that usually those people are sheep being led to a slaughter. And they just get turned into a bunch of, sheep being led to a slaughter. And you don't want to be that. You want to be an individual that can support yourself independently on your own in terms of your ability to think clearly and make decisions for yourself, even if it means that you might be alone in making those decisions. But you're better off alone than following the rest. Because I'll tell you something right now. The masses in the general public definitely don't know what the fuck they want. They don't know. They don't know. That's why they're part of the mass. That's why they follow trends. Because they don't know who they are or what they want. So they're going to do what has been pre-subscribed for them to be a part of. And in that lies the hive mentality. What is the hive mentality? It's what the occultists, it's what the evil is. It's what the occultists refer to as the oneness. The singularity, where everybody thinks the same and does the exact same thing at the exact same time every single day. And that's dangerous, because that's how people end up becoming sheep being led to a slaughter. Some of the most successful people I've ever met in my life, millionaires and people that are really successful and have really good jobs, typically were the kids in school that hated their teachers. They didn't listen to what everybody else was doing, and they did their own thing. I was one of those kids, and I ended up learning things that nobody else at this point in my life will ever know about, because I didn't do what everybody else was doing. Because I always knew deep in my gut, trusting your gut, that there was something very wrong about doing that. That there was something very wrong about what everybody else was doing and why I shouldn't do that. Because just somewhere in my instinct, I knew that there was something very wrong about it. And so that's the moral of the story today. But don't do what the rest of the masses are doing, because it's a trap. It is a trap that you will be caught up in. You know, Satanists, I'll just say this, that Satanists, what do you think they call it? A mass, a Catholic, just in the sense of using the word Catholics, because they practice something called mass. I think it's the Catholics. I'm not sure. Correct me if I'm wrong. But they practice something called mass. Well, why is that? It's because it's a large group of people together putting in a whole bunch of energy. Well, the reason why Satanists practice this kind of stuff is because when they want to open up fucking vortexes and different dimensions by using satanic rituals, which is possible, by the way, because it all has to do with energy, they do it in mass. They all focus their energy on one thing, which is where this whole singularity, one mind, hive mind bullshit comes in, which is why it's so dangerous. Because when they all put their energy and attention into one thing, they can really fuck shit up. And that's why you don't want to be a part of that. Because when everybody's in the same room thinking the same thing, doing the same thing, you'll get caught up in what they call a vortex, which is basically kind of like a black hole. But if you want to look at it in a very evil way, that's how demons interact with people. It has to do with mass and energy. That's what it's all about, and that's why you don't want to be caught up with the masses. That's why when you hear on TV they talk about, oh, there was a mass shooting. It's because there was energy being involved with the amount of people being in the area. At least as much as I can understand it. So don't do what everybody else is doing. If you see everybody else doing something, don't do that. Because people are a mess. They don't know about this stuff. And I'm still trying to understand it, which is why I'm not talking about it in detail right now. Because I'm still trying to understand what all this means. But I am trying to tell my subscribers and people that are just interested in hearing about these things what it all is about. What all this occultic knowledge is all about. What all the stuff that you see in the news and everybody doing the same thing, and this whole, what the masses are doing, what the general public is doing, what it's all about. So much more to it than people can really understand. I'm still trying to understand it. But anyways, I appreciate everybody for listening. And like I said, I'll put out videos when I feel like it, to be honest. I'm not a daily upload person. I think that's ridiculous. I think people get real sick and tired of that kind of stuff. And again, I don't follow what the masses do. I don't do what everybody else in the Mgtow community does. I don't like doing what everybody else does. I don't feel comfortable doing it. I have a bad feeling about it. And that's the moral of the story. That's the lesson of why you should not follow what everybody else is doing. Avoid the masses. If the masses are doing something, go the opposite way. Run. There's something fishy going on.